doing Braindead, and I always try to watch the credits through, and it's the first time in ages I've watched it, and I spotted your name, and I thought, I know that name. I might reach out and see how Peter's doing, and see if he'll come on and have a little bit of a chat with us.
Yeah, sure.
So to those people that are listening to this, welcome to the Evil Popcorn Podcast. I am referred to on the podcast here, Peter, as the Baron, just because it's one of those things that people do. Do you have a nickname you prefer to be known by?
Oh, no, just Peter.
Peter's fine. Now, Children of the Popcorn is what we refer to our listeners as. Children, if you are having a look at IMDb, Peter is up on there. You might see some interesting stuff there in Peter's back catalogue with like Mortal Engines and Hercules and The Water Horse. So you've been working in the stunt industry in New Zealand for quite a while. What got you into that?
Well, way back in my dinosaur days, around about 1978, 79, when I was still a teenager. I lived in Auckland, New Zealand at the time, and there's a little classified ad in the newspaper.
Oh.
It said stuntmen and women wanted, full training given.
Okay.
Anyway, that turned out to be for a stunt team called the Los Angeles Hell Drivers.
Okay.
And we're getting people together for doing live car stadium stunt shows.
Sure.
And that sort of went on for a little bit. That unfortunately broke up. There was a chap called Larry Bolton had a rather nasty accident. He was jumping a motorbike wingtip to wingtip across a DC-9 or whatever plane sitting on the ground.
Sure.
And wiped out on impact, and there's sort of a lot of accusations from back and forth, and he got badly injured, and the team split up. A couple of years later, there's another ad in the newspaper, stuntmen and women wanted, for training given. And it was a different team, the LA Hell Drive.
Okay.
So I joined that team. And eventually that led on to when I moved from Auckland to Wellington in New Zealand, I got an agent in Wellington and started getting a bit of work on TV shows and commercials and things.
Sure.
And then that eventually led to films, and Braindead was the first film that I worked on.
Okay. So what are you a horror movie head, or you don't care for them? What's your history sort of with horror movies?
Yeah, I like horror movies. I'm probably more of a science fiction movie person overall,
Sure.
but I do like horror movies as well. I've got fond memories of things like watching Halloween, the first one in the original series, and Dawn of the Dead, movies like that at midnight screenings at the film festival in Auckland.
Sure, yeah.
And that's a pretty cool atmosphere when you go to a midnight screening.
Yeah.
I remember after both of those, when I was going home, I was bricking it a bit because of the psychological impact walking under trees and things with shadows everywhere in parks and stuff.
Sure. Do you have a favorite horror movie monster?
Oh, that's a toughie. Probably if I had to just pick one, it would probably be like the classic Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh, nice, yeah.
That would be a great one because, they've recently done the Wolfman again and stuff like that, and made the disastrous Mummy one with Tom Cruise. But it would be great could be good to see Creature from the Black Lagoon redone.
Okay. All right.
If it was done well by, a good director.
Okay. So what do you wish you'd been told about doing stunts before you started doing stunts?
Well, with the hindsight of what must be 45 years later, I would have, not quite sure how I would have avoided this, but I would have avoided so much impact to my knees.
Sure.
Jumping down off things, jumping from rooftop to rooftop and so on.
Yeah.
I did a lot of that stuff for fun when I was a teenager, so I was kind of set up to get into stunt work.
Yeah.
But I can tell you 45 years down the track, you feel it in your knee. Although having said that, I know people 20, 30 years younger than me that have had to have knee replacements through either netball or basketball, just from all the constant jumping in the concrete.
Yeah.
And I haven't had as many jumps onto hard stuff, but I'm starting to feel it now.
Okay.
So it's probably going to be replacement time in a couple of years.
Are you a paracetamol or a Nurofen guy?
I actually try not to have anything, really.
Okay. All right.
It's only very rarely that I'll take any painkillers. I'll just put up for the ache.
Fair enough. What about fish oil?
Oh, no. Fish and chips, yeah.
Fair enough. And I know you do some screen stuff and you do some stage stuff. What's the biggest difference for the non-stunty between stage stunt work or stage fighting and screen stunts?
Well, there's two kinds of things I do. One is sort of fight scenes and fight choreography, training actors and also being in fights myself. So the main difference with that between doing it for a play or a live show and film or TV is obviously sound.
Yep.
So we have slightly different techniques for doing a punch and things because there's a way to make sound if you're doing it for for a stage production, whereas you don't have to worry about that for film and TV.
Yeah.
Also for film and TV, and this applies to all kinds of stunts, you can most of the time do it more than once.
Yeah.
So if the first one doesn't go quite right for some reason, you can set it up, do it again.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it in front of a live audience, you've got to get it right every single time, or be able to cover up the muck up.
Okay. Yeah, no, sure. That makes sense. So now I had some questions that were provided to me by the other members of the podcast and a couple other people. I asked some questions of what's one of the things that people think is really easy to do as a stunt, but is actually super difficult and dangerous?
Oh, gosh. Possibly high falls, because it's kind of hard to explain, but even falling 5 meters can kill you if you do it wrong.
Yeah.
And there are people that have fallen. In fact, Walking Dead set one of those here. I can't remember if it was the original Walking Dead or one of the spin-offs.
Yeah.
A few years ago, a guy died doing about an 8-meter fall, where he partially or completely missed the bag. And basically, if someone gets coward punched outside a nightclub or bar or something, you can fall like 2 meters, and if your head hits a hard surface, like a footpath of a road, you're pretty much dead. So basically, high falls are a lot more dangerous than people probably realise, and they're one of the things which has killed or injured the most people. And also people, if you're on the ground looking up, there's someone standing on a house roof or something, fall off. It doesn't look that high, but if you're up there, it looks a lot higher. Okay. Plus, you've got your body height on top of wherever you are.
Yeah, of course. Now, I have had the benefit of doing a short stunt course down here on the Gold Coast, and I did
Oh, yes, I know the one.
I did a 6-meter fall onto a bag.
Yep.
And it was fun.
How big did the bag look?
It was huge. It didn't look as big from when I was standing up on top of the tower.
Yeah, that's the thing. It looks a lot smaller up there.
Yeah. But
you got to hit it right and hit it in the middle.
Yeah, hit in the middle, land on your back. Got to keep your arms in. I actually skinned my elbows on the highest fall that I did, and it would be one of the things that would be super easy to get wrong and super easy to kill you immediately.
I'll let you in on a little secret. I really hate high fall. Okay. I like being up high. I like climbing buildings and things or standing on a ledge.
Yeah.
But I don't like falling down from there. Sure. And there's sort of several different ways to do a high fall. One is your classic standard way of just like somersaulting over. That's the most common way. I absolutely hate that because I always worry about getting paralyzed.
Sure.
The other way is suicide, which is just jumping out and leaning back to your back.
Yeah, the one we did.
Yep. The other one is falling forward and then twisting to back. You do like a 180 sideways, land on the back. And the last one, and many people think it's the most difficult, is falling off backwards. Yeah. I actually prefer falling off backwards more than anything else, or doing the twist 180 rather than I won't somersault over.
Okay.
I don't like it.
No, fair enough. I can understand that.
Yeah.
So now you mentioned in a little chat before online that you've got some stories about Braindead. What can you tell us about your time on Braindead?
Well, there's a few. The interesting thing was it was kind of a bit of luck and a bit of deliberate work on my part that got me the work on it, because Braindead was the first feature film that I actually worked on.
Yeah.
And it was also probably the most fun because the biggest variety of stuff. But basically what had happened was, because as I mentioned before, I like science fiction films.
Yeah.
And I ran one year I ran the National Science Fiction Convention in New Zealand. Yeah. And that was in 1991. It was called Foricon because we had Forrest J. Ackerman out as the guest of honor.
In Braindead, yeah.
Yes. So now I had been in touch with Peter Jackson because I interviewed him for a little magazine about psychotronic and exploitation movies that I was working on. Sure. I interviewed him about Bad Taste and Meet the Feebles, which were the two we had done before. Yep. And also he wasn't a guest at the convention, but he came along, and he also supplied a whole lot of stuff to put on display, the art show as it were. So we had props and models and masks and things from Bad Taste and Meet the Feebles.
Nice.
And Forry brought out some items from his collection in Los Angeles when he came out. So we had a combination of all these things. And of course, Peter was a great fan of Forry, as I was. Cool. And because we had a couple of days around the convention time, we took Forry out one day up the coast to Salford Car Museum and got photos of him sitting in a futuristic bubble car from the movie Sleeper.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And stuff like that. And we went round to Peter's place at the time. And I thought I was big because I got Forry to autograph some copies of Famous Monsters and stuff that I had. And Peter brought out this big stack about a foot high. Famous Monsters, and Forey was going through autographing. Anyway, long story short, Peter had thought, wouldn't it be great if I get Forey to do a cameo in Braindead?
Yeah.
Which he was planned, but it wasn't going to be shooting for about a year later. Anyway, he had the bright idea of just shooting some brief stuff, which included Forey on 16mm at Wellington Zoo. So I went there with him when he did that, and had a couple of people like Richard and Tanya and period costumes and things, and was just shooting a little bit of footage. So I don't know if you know, you should remember the scene is when the rat monkey attacks Lionel's mother.
Vera,
in the zoo. And Forey's the guy sitting on a park bench.
And he's got a copy
reading Famous Monsters #1.
Indeed.
Which he brought out with him.
Nice.
He looks up and reacts and pulls out a camera and takes photos. So Peter was just shooting this stuff on the sly, and this guy from the zoo came up and said, "What the hell are you doing? I'm not allowed to do commercial for." He said, "Oh no, I'm just." He was all very embarrassed. But anyway, he got away with, and of course later on they officially went to the zoo and filmed a bit more stuff wrapped around those guerrilla filmmaking style scenes that he did. So I guess you can say that I'm responsible. Forey did that cameo.
Oh, nice.
And Braindead, which is really cool.
Now, one of the questions that I got asked to ask is, and you may not know the answer, but that's okay. When did Peter Jackson start wearing shoes while directing? Apparently he used to go shoeless while directing.
Oh, I don't know when he started wearing them. I'm trying to think now, because I did Mortal Engines a few years ago. And Peter wasn't directing that, but he turned up one day to shoot as like we already had a second unit, but he was like an extra unit on top of that. And he was just a mere, and I'm pretty sure he was wearing shoes that day.
Okay.
But look, he's famous for not liking wearing shoes and wearing bare feet as much as he can get away with. Pretty sure he was wearing shoes on Braindead because we had some very sticky floors with fake blood.
Did that make it more difficult to do the stunt?
Oh my God. I can still remember the smell of the sickly sweet smell of the fake blood, and I think it had maple syrup and stuff in it as well. So all the costumes were sticky because costumes we pretty much all got covered in blood and things, because I doubled for quite a few of the different actors in it.
So we'd see you quite a bit in the film if we knew where to look?
Yep. Well, basically, we just had a very small crew on it, and it was shot relatively quickly. In terms of the stunts, I was the stunt coordinator and a main stunt person and fight choreographer as well. We had a martial arts guy called Damon DeBerry. He doubled for the priest.
In the Kung Fu priest scene,
in the Kung Fu cemetery. I kick ass for the Lord.
That's the one. That's what everybody remembers about this film. That and the
cemetery fight scene. And in that fight, both Damon, myself, and the other main stunt person, Tony Wolf, we all sort of figured out the fight between the three of us. There's a bit, you might remember, Kung Fu Priesty does two zombies come up either side of him, does a double elbow strike to the stomach, double back fist to the face of each. He turns around, grabs their wrists, and it's an old move called the Irish Whip. And flips both of them at the same time. So I was doubling the larger actor with a big blonde wig on and some padding, which was great. Tony was doubling one of the other guys who was flipped, and Damon was the priest double for that. Oh no, sorry, we actually got the actor to do that flip because I taught him how to do it. But Damon doubled him for all the fan kicks and stuff. Spinning back kicks and things. But yeah, I did manage to teach the actor how to do that because we were doing all the work, Tony and I. But yeah, essentially, whenever it's just the zombie mother, it's me. Like when she gets hit by the tram and crashes through the shop glass door.
That was a great shot.
Yeah, that was good fun. And I was worried the heels, they weren't very high heels, but I was worried they might rip the mini tramp material.
Oh, of course.
And I was going off. It was a bit of a worry. And also trying to think, the mother gets thrown down the stairs at one point. So if it's just the mother, I'm the mother with a full head zombie mask and everything. And if it's the mother and Lionel, the son, together, like when they both go rolling down the stairs together, or in her funeral scene when she's brought back to life and she dives on him and they crash through the glass wall onto the marble by the priest. In those cases, I'm the son and Tony Wolf is the mother because he was just a bit shorter than me. And I doubled various other, as I said, Tony and I doubled two of the guys in the cemetery military fight, and I doubled a few other people going downstairs or being flipped or whatever.
Yeah.
In fact, that one of me at the funeral, that was probably the single hardest stunt to do.
Okay.
Because they had a big whole wall of fake breakaway glass.
Yep.
We only had one shot at it because the spare glass had broken in transit.
Oh, no.
From Auckland. So it was a one take, one shot at it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't very high of a breakaway bit, so we actually had to crouch.
Yep.
So I crouched with my back to it, hugging Tony as the mother, and there's a small lip about 6 centimetres high behind me on the floor. So I had to be careful not to trip backwards over that.
Yep.
And on the cue was the priest, who was Stuart Deviney, who said, "Shall be resurrected." And I'm at verbal cue because we couldn't see anything.
Yep.
I just had to throw myself backwards through the fake glass with hugging Tony.
Avoiding a 6 centimetre lip.
Yep. And straight flat backwards onto a solid marble floor.
Oof.
And it was tricky because with something like that, there's a particular back breakfall technique you need to do to keep your head up so you don't crack your head.
Yep.
And it was made more difficult by the fact that Tony was on top of me. And immediately upon landing, I had to turn to my left and flip Tony over onto his back
Yep.
to match the actors. But anyway, we did it in one take.
Well, you had to.
Yes, we had to. But I was pretty proud that we pulled that off,
That was
and
great.
no one got hurt, and it looked good.
Is there a particular type of actor that it's more difficult to work with stunts?
Probably actors that want to do more than they should.
Okay.
Because they really shouldn't. One, they're putting a stunt person out of job.
Yeah.
Because, we get usually, unless you're hired for a week or whatever, you're usually hired on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So you go in and work for a day. But if an actor's going to do stuff themselves, then they don't need the stunt person, do they?
No.
It's good. Sometimes I've turned up and you turn up to do something, and for whatever reason, the weather or being up deciding the actor is safe enough for the actor to do, or they've got 6 pages of dialogue and they know they're not going to get to that stunt, that little fight bit at the end. So you turn up for a few hours, you get paid for a full day, and you go.
Yeah.
So those days are quite good.
Yeah. The hurry up and wait kind of.
Yeah, I mean, on Braindead, I remember there's a scene when the girlfriend, is it Paquita?
Paquita, yeah.
Yep, and the mother's eating her dog.
Yep, most of
Your
the
mother
dog.
ate my dog. Lionel holds up the tail and says, "Not all of it."
Yeah.
And then the mother grabs him and they go down the stairs.
Yep.
I think immediately after that.
Yeah.
So on that one, we turned up about 6 p.m. because it was a night shoot. We turned up about 6 p.m., probably in costume and makeup by about 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Worse for Tony because he was in my full head zombie thing as a mother.
Yeah.
And I was Lionel, so I wasn't too bad. And I think we actually did that about 2 a.m.
Oh, wow.
So we would have been waiting after we were all in makeup and costume and that, ready to go. I think we waited about 6 hours to do that in the middle of a night. And the very first time we did it, there was a camera bump. The camera bumped something as the camera moves from a dolly. So we did a second take, which is the one they used.
Have you got anything coming up that people can look forward to seeing you in?
Not right at the moment. Like, I've always done stunt work and all the fight stuff, and that has always just been part-time.
Okay.
So I've always had full-time jobs. I mean, quite a lot of stunt people, even in America, many people are just part-time. So they either have their own business or a job where they can get time off and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's very boom and bust, the industry.
Of course.
And the thing with stunt people is, it's not like if a movie's shooting, they need a lighting guy and a camera guy and wardrobe. They need those people there every day for 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
But they may only need stunts for a few days or a week.
Yeah.
So it tends to be a lot less work. And of course, we've had some things. We had COVID and lockdowns.
Yeah, of course.
And that not only killed off film and TV for a bit, but to pick up here in New Zealand, it also killed off all plays, live shows, and the workshops that I run. I run stage combat and sword fighting workshops and things.
Okay. Do you want to plug that, Peter? Where can people find your courses if they want to?
Well, I do them. I tend to do them just Wellington or Upper Hutt, just north of Wellington. Yeah. I do them sometimes in Auckland, and very odd time I've done them in Christchurch or Dunedin. So just in New Zealand, unless someone wants to hire me to go to Australia and run one.
Okay.
But I do basic unarmed fighting. So this is how to do it for film and TV and for stage production.
Yeah.
So basic unarmed sword, that's medieval sword, is what I usually teach. Bit of staff fighting, sword and shield, gun and knife disarms, using different prop weapons and breakaway props.
Yep.
So I teach a variety of different ones. But as I said, for 2 or 3 years here, pretty much everything was not happening. But now I've started those sorts of things up again.
Okay.
And the other thing too, I don't sort of chase work too much these days. One, because my knees are getting sore.
Okay.
Secondly, because my spare time, I tend more to want to use it for holidays with my family.
Sure, that makes sense.
And lastly, I think that people that where it's their only income, they deserve the work first.
Nice.
I sort of came to that because of, during COVID and all that, what work there was. I thought, well, those guys need it more than I do.
Yeah. Okay. And one last question just to, actually, no, sorry, I got 2 last questions here. So what's your favorite stunt you've ever seen on screen?
Oh, God. Oh,
Putting you on the spot.
I really couldn't narrow it down to just one, but I'll give you a couple.
Sure.
And they're both the same kind of stunt. I mean, there are some great stunts out.
Well, with that in mind, what's the
fire
best stunt?
stunt.
What's the best stunt?
Oh, well, how that's a different answer.
Okay, then
The
go
fire
with...
stunts, I would say Maniac Cop 2.
Oh, nice.
Has a massive, massive fire stunt. And also, and there are some other real good ones in other horror movies.
Yeah.
And although it's not a horror movie, the science fiction movie Westworld,
Yep.
the fire stunt right at the end of that is done by Dick Warlock, is probably the single biggest fire stunt.
All right. For those newer people, we're not talking about the TV series that came out recently. We're talking about the original Michael Crichton film 7.
Yeah. And look, the really odd thing about that is because there's about 3 or 4 camera angles, so edits and camera angles, and I always presumed that it was like 3 or 4 8 to 10 second burns stitched together with editing.
Okay.
But if you watch the making of Westworld, it's not as one big long, like,
Oh, wow.
35-second huge fire stunt.
That's an incredible stunt then.
Yeah, it is. So that's even more incredible. He was one of the guys doing big fire stunt in the original Firestarter movie, the one with Drew Barrymore when she was young. Best stunt movie overall. It's not a horror or science fiction or anything, but it would be the Burt Reynolds action comedy called Hooper.
Oh, I remember Hooper, yes.
It was around about time of Smoking the Bandit, and that's just got incredible live, real stunts, no CGI, including giant chimney stacks being exploded and collapsing and just missing a car. And if you watch the end credits, they do that little thing, Hal Needham copied it from Jackie Chan from his movies of having a little thing showing alternate angles and stuff cut from the film, behind the scenes and accidents while the credits are scrolling. And if you watch that closely, there's a bit where these guys are trying to get a guy out of a car that's on fire, and he's trapped in there. And they're in effect trying to fire extinguish it, and Hal Needham comes charging up, rips the door open and pulls the guy out. And it's like, that's what you need to do.
And so last question, given your skills in stunt and fighting and that sort of thing, how long do you reckon you'd survive in a zombie film or a slasher film?
You mean for real?
Yeah, if there was a zombie apocalypse or Jason Voorhees was chasing.
Well, I've already figured out how to survive a zombie apocalypse because I think stunt people just think weird shit.
Yeah.
I figured out the best local supermarket to hole up in.
Nice. I've done the same.
In terms of defending it and the best supplies and everything.
Yeah.
So a little bit like Dawn of the Dead, I guess.
Okay.
I reckon I could, as long as I went fast zombies.
Yeah, okay.
If they're fast zombies, we're all pretty screwed.
Yeah.
Unless you've got a big Gatling gun or something.
Yeah. So we're talking Romero zombies, not...
Okay, Romero zombies, I'd be using a baseball bat.
Okay.
All
right. Well,
I reckon I could keep myself alive from slow zombies.
Nice. Well, look, really appreciate it, Peter. Peter, if you're in New Zealand and Peter's doing the courses, look up Peter Hassall online. For anyone that's listening to this because of Peter, this is the Evil Popcorn Podcast. We're an Australian podcast for horror movies. We try to do Antipodean films, Australian, New Zealand. We try to do independent films just because they don't often get a look in. But look, please do follow us on all the socials. And I will always call out Improv Queensland. I'll always call out Act React Theatre, and IFWG Publishing will have the book that I'm a part of coming out really soon. But Children of the Popcorn, I really hope you appreciated Peter's time today. Peter, really appreciated what you did today. Is there anything, one last thing about stunts you'd like the world to know?
Yeah, we need, 2 things. If anyone does want to get in touch, my website, stuntperformer.com. stunt.co.nz.
Okay. Well, we'll put a link in the show notes as well.
Yep, and the last thing is we need an Oscar for stunt work.
Oh, 100%.
Been robbed for decades.
Yeah.
The reasons the Academy give for not having one are complete nonsense.
Okay. Well, there we go.
We'll get there eventually.
Let's get a petition going, yeah?
There's already one going, mate.
Okay. So there's one currently people could sign if they wanted to?
Oh, look, there's big Hollywood actors lobbying for it
Sure.
now. There's a stunt coordinator and stuntman called Jack Gill. He's been pushing it 20 years.
Okay.
But I think he's finally starting to make some traction.
Nice. All right, well, that's us, Children of the Popcorn. Thank you very much for listening. Go to bed, children, and we are out. All right, Peter, thanks heaps for that. I really appreciate it.
That's all right. You're welcome.
So yes, I'll shoot you a link to the page, and when the podcast's up, I'll shoot you a link to the video one we did for Braindead, and we'll do an audio only one for this one.
Yep, that'll be cool. I really hope they bring it out on Blu-ray sometime.
Oh, I really want to see a Blu-ray of Braindead.
Yeah, I've got a DVD, and of course it's not the greatest quality print.
Yeah, no, well, the version of it I watched for the podcast was on YouTube, and while it's not great, it's okay. But yeah, it's up on YouTube. All right, well, look, I will let you get back to your day, and I will shoot this off to the editor, and we'll get it on.
Great, thanks for thinking of me.
No problem at all, Peter. Thanks so much.
Cheers. See you, Scott.
Whoa,